Welcome to DAExMachiNation. Join us as we explore the mysteries of this world. Cryptids, monsters, macabre tales, and horror stories abound. Could they be true? Are monsters real?
Folks, and thank you all for joining us on another edition of the DAExMachiNation show. In the house tonight is with me is Robbie Jed Rains, my almost twin brother from South Crackalacky. Unfortunately, Doc and Steve will be with us tonight. Steve's at a graduation for a relative up in his old hometown up near St. Louis, and Doc is out with his son tonight, so they're having family time. So you're just gonna have to put up with the two of us. Our shenanigans will be, fun and lighthearted.
Not cruel.
And alcohol fueled.
Of course.
So how's everybody doing tonight? You guys doing good? Good? It is good to see we've already got a big crowd. I mean, we're already over 100 and climbing. Got some big names in the chat tonight. AJ's in the house. Ain't seen him in a minute. Roxanne's with us as always. She's one of the mods. Before I get too far in this, y'all say a prayer for Miss Lene. She's one of our. Y'all know her. She's always in the chat. She's in the hospital. I can't really say too much because it's not my place. But she's in the hospital. Probably going to be for a few days. She just could use our prayers right now, and we can keep her and her families in your thoughts and prayers. And that would mean the world to me. So hopefully she'll be back with us soon, but I'll try to keep you all posted. But she's probably going to be in the hospital for the next few days. Sonia's with us. Hey, Sonia, glad you could be here tonight. Hey, Don. Wow, Challen's here tonight. Trisha Arnold's here. Chicken Bird 69. I love that. That one's awesome. KC, what's up, brother? Kevin Bode's in the house. Holy crap. Hey, Harold. Harold sent me something. Harold and his wife sent me a Bose Bluetooth speaker for when we go out in the field. Dude, I took this thing out in the backyard and played that wolf howl. Dude, it can get really freaking loud, and it is super clear. It's like the best Bluetooth speaker I think I've ever used. So, yeah, we're definitely going to be using that bad boy. Missouri Broad's here. Mrs. Moon here. Steve Padden. Toshi the Wolf's in the house. Hey, we got a gift membership. Pagan Trucker sent out 5 gift memberships. Dude, that is awesome. Thank you guys so much. Angela Monroe, Judy Wheeler, Mark D, Cajun Dog, and Ventus Bruma were the winners of those. That is awesome. Congratulations to the winners. Mary Cole says she loves shenanigans. Well, you're in the right place because there will be shenanigans aplenty.
Shenanigans will ensue.
Yeah, shenanigans. Cheers to shenanigans. Wow, that one's really good. I hadn't tried that one.
Which one did you get?
Baja Blast Punch. That's really pretty good. So folks, one thing I want to talk about for just a minute before we get started on the show tonight is this is something that we've been kicking around amongst us for a while. And I want to get y'all's input on it and just hear what you guys think. But I'm going to see what you guys think of it. We are probably going to go ahead and make this change. For the longest time, over 330 some odd episodes, 337 as of tonight. This show's been called DAExMachiNation, and I've had to explain to so many people what DAExMachiNation means. It's it's an old writing term. Which actually it's Deus Ex Machina, but I put my own spin on it by calling it DAExMachiNation. And that's, that was all well and good when this show first started out, and it was mostly about the books. Just like the other night, we had a fellow writer on. We had Heath Stalkup on. We did mostly writers, and that's really what it was all about, was my books and other authors and stuff like that. But we kind of got away from that fairly quickly, I might add. We've been doing mostly cryptids for the longest time. And even though we still, like the other night when I had Heath on, I plan on having him back, and we're going to have some other authors on. That's just really not the primary focus of the show anymore. So we're want to see what you guys think. But we're in the process of rebranding the show, and we're going to change the name from DAExMachiNation, which is really essentially just about me, to about all of us, because we do more stuff in the field now, and we do go out and film, and we all tell stories, and we all share our points of view on here. So the show is really more about all of us than it is any one of us. So we're going to change it to just the Nightmare Hunters. Get a new logo. Of course, it'll still be the same old morons, but at least we're going to be rebranding the show where it's more about us instead of just about my writing. And I think that's something I probably should have done a while back, but I'd been kicking it around and thinking about it. And then I got to talking to all the guys about it. I even talked to my family about it, and they all agreed that it was a good idea. And I think it's better for the channel. And I think it's more conducive to growth of the channel. Because like I said, a lot of people, they'll see DAExMachiNation and go, what the hell is that? And this way, the Nightmare Hunters certainly alludes to more than just literature or alliteration. So what do you guys think? Steve Fadden says, welcome to the Nightmare Hunters, y'all. And that means that, it's not just us up here. That means all of y'all will be Nightmare Hunters. Everybody that's part of the family, you're a part of the team. You're part of the Nightmare Hunters. So I'm pretty excited about making that. I'm probably not going to make the change like anytime soon. I've got to get an intro and outro done for the change. I've got to get the new logos done and up. So it's probably going to be a couple weeks before I actually officially make the change, unless things just kick off quickly. But look for that change coming very soon. We're going to be rebranding the show as the Nightmare Hunters, and hopefully we'll be filming a lot more stuff in the field. Oh, and to answer the question somebody had before the show even started, yes, we are still planning on bringing back the Redneck Reading Association, but it's going to be different. It's probably going to be members only, simply because, and I don't want to sound like a jerk here, I really don't, but the books and the stories that we write are how we make our living. And if we're just giving them away for free, we're losing out on all the potential for the money we would make on Audible. But because Amazon takes so much of the Audible, we're really wanting to do something different where it really stays more in-house with us. Because Amazon should not make 75% of the profits just for hosting the file. That's literally all they're doing. We write the book, and the narrator, or even sometimes us, narrates the file. All Amazon does is upload it and host it, and they make 75% for it. So I really want to shy away from doing anything with Amazon Audible when at all possible. So look for us doing the Redneck Reading Association coming back probably pretty soon, but it's going to be for members of the channel and members of the Patreon. We'll get that all set up, and we'll make a big announcement when that happens. Don't be surprised if in the next couple of days all of the current Redneck Reading Association videos disappear. They're going to reappear behind the wall for members, and I appreciate each and every one of y'all, but that's just, unfortunately, that's the reality of it. Is that's how Robbie and I make our living. Well, part of our living, at least a good chunk of it, off of our books and our audibles, and hopefully, but in that way, we can still get something for our time and effort with the audios, even if it's just us reading it.
Looks like overall everybody's down with the new name.
Seems like it. So we'll be unveiling the new logo, and I was originally thinking about going with the old the Nightmare Hunter Project logo I did for the book The Nightmare Hunter, but it really starts earlier than that, because that's what Declan and the boys were called, the Nightmare Hunters, and then there's the modern Nightmare Hunter, and so that's all going to get taken into consideration when we come up with a new logo, and I think you guys are going to be pretty happy with it. Love to hear some of y'all's input. If you'd like to shoot me a message, if you like what you guys think the logo should look like or should have on it. Love to hear what you guys think, and just let us know what you think in the comments, or shoot me a message if you guys want to have some input, because we would love to have your input on it. We are going to be losing the hashtag Team DAExMachiNation, because that'll just be gone. So we need to come up with a new hashtag. Whether it's Team Nightmare Hunter or something like that. I don't know, but
somebody said something earlier. Said Nightmare Hunter Nation.
Nightmare Hunter Nation. I like that. That's pretty good.
I can't remember. It flashed by so fast. I can't remember who said it. So whoever said that, put it back in. Because
Rod says it goes well. Anytime you play the Robbie Howl, I know it's going to give me nightmares. KC says old Scooby-Doo style, except with you guys. Well, I do have the big chicken dog sleeping over here on the carpet. Barry Beezer says Kolchak's hat should be part of the logo.
Well, it is if we use the one from the book, then it already is. But if we incorporate Declan stuff, which was way back further than the other one, it's kind of a different. Hey, way to go, Charlie! Thank you. Hope you enjoy it. He just said he got book.
Oh, okay. I was looking for the comment, just didn't see it.
Yeah.
Thanks, Mike. I appreciate it, brother. And it's just this is just just something I wanted to bring to you all to get you guys input, because you guys are just as much part of this journey as we are. So this is even though we're the ones up here, doing all the talking and being on the cameras and stuff. This community is more than just about us. It's it's the four of us. With Doc and Steve. It's Noah's involved behind the scenes. We've got all the mods who are a big part of the experience, and then each and every one of you guys that are in the chat. This channel would be nothing without y'all. So we want to make sure that it represents all of us. And that way, when we start doing events, if anybody goes with us, Wyatt or Wyatt's already gone, but any of y'all end up going with us somewhere, there's no change in names. You're just part of the Nightmare Hunters.
Yep.
Ash 5257 says, I liked that show, Kolchak the Night Stalker. I do too. That was one of my favorites. It was what inspired me to write horror as a kid. Well, I think that was pretty well received.
Yeah.
Like that. There we go. Holly says, hashtag Nightmare Hunt Nation. That's not bad. I like that. Cajun Dog says, the Gray Eagle girls are here.
Always with the Gray Eagle girls.
Gotta make that Gray Eagle girls t-shirt. That's just got to happen. Jonathan said, I just knew I just subbed. Awesome. Welcome to the channel, man. Thank you for being here. Well, I think first thing I want to talk about is a Bigfoot encounter that I recently heard. It was on another channel. I'll give credit where credit is due. The channel I heard it on was Basecamp Chris, who does a lot of good stories. But it kind of got to me in a roundabout way. I didn't stumble onto the channel. Of course, I knew about the channel, but I hadn't been watching. I don't watch as many videos as I once did. Just don't have the time. But Doc sent it to me and Robbie, and I watched it. And Robbie watched it, and it was an interesting encounter. And of course, I'm not going to give it to you all verbatim. I don't think I could repeat it just word for word. But I'll go over the encounter with you all, and we'll just kind of cover the encounter and let you guys think, decide what y'all think, and then we'll start talking about what the show was more about getting into survival and what to do in this situation. But this encounter, the reason I want to tell it is exactly why you should be prepared in a survival situation, whether you realize you're in Bigfoot territory or not. But this story is a prime example of why you need to have a plan. So we'll call him Jason. Decided he was going to go up in an area called what is it? Bear's Teeth? The Bear's Teeth Mountains?
It's Bear something. I can't remember.
The Bear's Teeth Mountains is part of the Absarokas.
I had 200 kids running around me while I was trying to listen to it on my Bluetooth.
So Jason's a lifelong outdoorsman. He's hunted and fished everywhere, and every year for his own personal, peace of mind, he picks a location and he goes and does a solo backpacking camping trip, usually for about a week. Well, at this particular time, he picked the Bear's Teeth Mountains up in Montana, which are part of the Absarokas. It was going to be a 4-day trail, a known trail. It was already marked. He was going to follow it in, camp along the way along this trail, and it would eventually bring him right back to where he'd parked his truck. First day he heads in, everything's fine. Nothing happens. He camps out that night near a stream, has his dinner, sleeps just fine. He's enjoying being in nature. The next day, day 2 into the trip, he hikes pretty far in. So he's about the halfway point on the trip through this area. So he's way back in the woods. Pitches his camp in a nice little clearing, and not too far away is another small clearing with a stream running through it. But he smartly pitched his tent in another clearing in a slightly higher elevation, because you don't want a creek to flood and run you out of your tent in the dead of night. So he picked a good spot, sets his camp up, sets everything up, and decides he's going to step out and go find some firewood for the night. So he heads out, crosses through a stand of trees into this other clearing, kind of checks out the stream, looking for brook trout and stuff like that to catch for his dinner. It was going a little longer than he planned to. Bring some wood back with him. When he comes back into the clearing where he pitched his tent, everything's gone. Tent's gone, backpack's gone, equipment's gone. It's all gone. He's like, did I, at first he's confused, thinks maybe he came back to the wrong area. That he may have, come back in the wrong direction and it wasn't in the right spot. But then he got to looking where his tent had been. And not only could he see where the grass was mashed down, but he could also still see a couple of the tent stakes in the ground with fabric still stuck to them, like something had grabbed the tent, tore it off, and walked away with it. So he's thinking, somebody's messing with me. There's got to be somebody out here that's screwing with me. He looks around, can't find anything, goes back down to the creek to look around down there, looking for tracks or anything. And then he hears something in the woods behind him that sounded like, and you guys are going to hear fire on this immediately, sounded like gibberish. He said it sounded like either a language or somebody giggling, but it was almost like somebody was talking, but he couldn't make it out. It sounded almost more like somebody was giggling. So he tries to find it and can't. He doesn't see anybody. So but at this point, he's starting to get kind of nervous. Arlen says my sound, since we got back, our sound's been better. Thanks, man. I really appreciate that. We've been working on it. Yeah, Trish Arnold got it right. Ghibli. So he was hearing Ghibli. So he gets back over to where his camp area was. He's looking around, and then the farther away, he can still hear this weird, almost giggling sound, gibberish. So he starts following it a little bit, and he finds his backpack. And several of the pouches, most backpacks have multiple compartments. Well, all of the compartments that had held his food, because he had like freeze-dried and prepared meals, freezer meals, that all he had to do was add some water and heat them up, and instant meals. A lot of backpackers carry those. Those were all gone. Those pouches had been ripped open, not unzipped, ripped open, and all the food was gone. He still had, a few items left in the backpack, but all his food was gone. He still had a filtration system in his canteen, so it wasn't like he was out of water, but he had no food, and he didn't have any weapons. So at this point, he's really starting to get freaked out. Sun's going down. It's almost dark. It's going to be dark soon. And he realizes, not only am I stuck out here, because up in those mountains, and even though this was in summer, in the mountains in Montana, I don't know if y'all have ever been up in the Rockies at night, but it still gets cold, even in the dead of summer. It can drop down in the 30s or even the 20s. So it's going to get uncomfortably cold unless he can get a fire, and he's got no sleeping bag or anything now to sleep on. That was all in the tent. Unless he's got a way to make a fire, which he doesn't think he does. He's out here at the mercy of the elements, and he doesn't figure he's going to make it. So he makes the decision to head out. to try to get back to his truck, go back the way he came. Even though the sunlight's fading fast and he's 2 days into his hike, he takes off, trying to cover as much territory as he can. Now he's not really carrying as much weight. His tent and all his equipment's gone, so he's traveling lighter, but that's still 2 days travel. So he heads down the trail, and at several points he can hear that strange, like laughing kind of language. He can hear it like behind him, and he'll stop and turn around and look. And he can't find it. Never doesn't get a glimpse of it at all. Okay. And then as he keeps moving, he hears something pacing him on either side of the trail, pacing him through the trees. And at this point, he's starting to get pretty freaking nervous. So he's hauling butt down the trail. It is getting really close to dark, almost full on dark, and it's going to be very difficult for him to keep traveling. And he hears that noise behind him, and he spins around in the trail to try to catch whoever it was, but there's nothing in the trail. Nothing. Nobody in the trees. He doesn't see anything. So now he's getting pretty freaked out. Turns back around to start back down the trail, and one of the landmarks he'd been focusing on as he was going down the trail was a tree stump that was about 6 feet tall, just off to the right side of the trail. When he turns around, tree stump's gone. It's not there anymore. So at first he thinks maybe my mind's playing tricks on me. Maybe I just thought I saw it there, but he realizes, no, there was something there and now it's gone. And it wasn't a tree stump. So he hears something moving off to his left, and off to his left, just off the trail, is a slight rise, not like a ridge or anything, just like a slight rise, and then it drops down the other side. So he runs up to the top of this, hoping to get a look at somebody in the light that's slowly fading. And at first he thought it was a guy until he realized how fast it was moving. He said it was a very, very big guy covered completely in dark clothes or fur. And it was moving through the heavy undergrowth and the rocks without making a sound. He said it was just jumping from rock to rock at a high rate of speed, moving away from him. And that's when he realized that ain't human. That's, of course, he wasn't thinking Bigfoot, but he was thinking that's clearly not human. I don't know what that is. He was freaking out. So he runs back down to the trail and takes off just as fast as he can go. And his daylight is almost gone. It's just a sliver of light. And he's in a canyon to begin with. So it's not like he's got much light left. So by the time he's getting into the thickest part of the woods, heading back down toward where he parked, it has now gotten full dark. And he is about to give up to the point where he's got to find a place to try to hole up for the night. He doesn't know what to do. He can barely see his hand in front of his face when he catches the scent of a campfire. He smells the smoke.
Hey, DA.
Yeah.
You forgot the part where he hears the in between where you're at right now and the tree stump thing. You forgot where it repeated what he said to him.
That's right. That's a key part.
Mm-hmm.
He turned around. This was before he noticed the tree stump. When he spun around, he turned it. What was it? He yelled up the thing. Was it
"Leave me alone"?
Yeah, No, it was "Stay away from me."
Or "Stay away from me." Yeah.
He at this point he's still convinced it's somebody messing with him. So he turns around when he thought he heard something in the trees behind him. He spins around in the trail and goes, "Stay the hell away from me!" And after just a couple seconds, he hears this very deep, very guttural voice go, "From me." And he's freaking out. And so, that's when he takes off and notices the tree stump's gone, runs up on that embankment and sees that dark figure moving away from him. And so now he's hauling ass down the side of the mountain. He's losing daylight. And every once in a while from behind him, he'll hear that deep voice go, "Me." And he's about, in full-blown panic mode. He doesn't have a place to hole up for the night. Temperature's dropping. He doesn't have the supplies he needs to survive. All of that disappeared with his tent. Yeah, he's just got like an extra jacket and some basic necessities in that backpack, and that's all he's got left. So that's when he smelled that campfire smoke, but he couldn't see a fire. So he kept stumbling his way down this trail for another half hour or so, and he starts seeing the fire through the trees off the trail. So really having nowhere else to go, he starts making his way through the woods to this campfire. And once he gets close to it, he yells out and says, "Hello, my name's Jason. I'm alone. Can I approach your camp?" And the guy says, "Yeah, come on in." It's an elderly guy that was doing the same thing Jason was. That he was out there just backpacking and camping, just kind of out there being by himself. So at first, Jason's a little leery about telling him what happens, but the story pretty much just comes out of everything that happened. Well, the old man tells him, says, "Well, I've been coming up here for years. I've never seen anything like that, but I believe they're up here. I've never seen it, but I do believe they're up here." He says, all I've got is the one sleeping bag, and I don't have a whole lot of food, but I'll give you some food, and you can stay by my fire tonight." Didn't have the resources to give him a sleeping bag or anything, because who carries the second one? But they build up the fire. Jason says, "I'll sleep out here next to the fire, and I'll keep the fire fed tonight." So during the night, Jason wakes up, about half asleep, throws some more wood in the fire, and looks out and sees a set of dark green eye shine staring back at him from the deep trees. So it's just staring at him. And at first he didn't register what he was looking at, that it was eye shine. And every once in a while it would blink. And then he turned and looked at the tent because he heard something. When he looked back, it was gone. So now he's got the heebie-jeebies, stays there, keeps the fire built up until the sun comes up, tells the old man, he's like, "I'm getting out of here. And I recommend you do too." So Jason takes off, doesn't say whether or not where the old man left. It just says that he took his leave and made it on down out of the down the trail a few more hours, made it to his truck and got the hell out of there. But what happened to him along the way, it being pacing him, taking his equipment. These are all great lessons for what we're about to talk about. But then, to me, this is just an absolutely frightening story of a guy that not only was confronted with the fact that these things are out there, but it basically crippled his ability to survive. So when you're in that situation, what do you do? And that's what kind of gave us the idea for tonight's show. Robbie, you want to start?
So, I mean, I guess the biggest thing is he went, and I get it. Sometimes people just don't, it's that situational awareness thing we talk about. But he at least had his book bag. He at least had his backpack with him. He wouldn't have lost a good bit of the stuff he lost. And, that even if it's not Bigfoot or Dogman or something like that you're saying, there's other people in the woods. You leave a campsite unattended, somebody can walk in and take anything you got. So if you're going to be gone for any amount of time from your campsite, I recommend you take your bag with, at least your backpack with you, because you never know what's going to happen. Especially if you got your med kit and stuff on your backpack, like most of us do, and you go out there and you get cut bad, or you roll an ankle or something like that, and you've hiked quarter of a mile away from your camp. So yeah, but so a big takeaway from this is always be prepared, and by being prepared, keep stuff that you need with you. Probably couldn't have done anything about the tent getting taken, dismantled, and thrown wherever it was, or taken wherever it was taken. But he would have probably been able to survive a little bit better if he'd had his backpack with him.
Lead-Laced and Anarchy says, "I do have a cryptid question. Is land between the lakes more Dogman or Sasquatch territory? The way it seems to be is Dogman in the north and Sasquatch in the south. Right down by the break, the mid part was where the pens they have the buffalo and the elk. And it just seems to be south of there where you get Bigfoot sightings, and north of there it's Dogman. And so it just depends on what part of LBL you're in."
So, we talk about all the time about being prepared and taking in, if you're going in for 2 days, take enough food for 4 days. If you go in for, because you never know what's going to happen. So, like I said, he probably couldn't have, he probably couldn't have done anything about the tent. But if he'd taken his bag with him, at least he would have still had that. Now, and obviously, yeah, he did get it back, but he lost food and God knows what else he lost out of that pack. So, but he wouldn't have lost the food, and I think he lost his water bottle too. The only reason he was able to get water is because he still had his filtration system in there, and he was able to use his filtration system, because I think that's where he got some of the Ghibli he heard, was when he was down there filling his spare water bottle back up with the filtration unit. So, but you know, he just lucked out finding that bag, in my opinion. I mean,
yeah, I don't think it intended for him to find any of that.
no. So
then again, it may have been lost all interest in the bag once it got the food out of it.
And that's true too. I mean, we don't know it could have, got the food, ripped it out, and just tossed the bag. But if that be the case, why didn't he find his tent? Because his sleeping bag and everything, all that stuff was in his tent, and that was gone. So, yeah, and I see plenty of people saying it in the chat. He was out there without a weapon, and there's plenty of people that go into these places without a weapon. I mean,
Montana, you got to worry about grizzlies.
Mm-hmm. And so, y'all know us. Y'all know how we roll. And like I told Marianne when we were at the expedition a couple weeks ago. One of the guys that got up and talked, he was real big and saying, "We're not taking any weapons. Nobody takes weapons." And I kind of looked over at Marianne. She looked at me and went, like, "No, he ain't talking about you." Because I told her afterwards, I said, "He ain't gonna have a problem." She goes, "No, he don't want people carrying weapons that don't know what they're doing." And I get that and I understand that totally. But I'm not going. And case in point, and DA knows what I'm about to say. We were out there that night, and this strange truck come driving through that none of us knew. These people just kind of hanging out the window, yelling at us, "Hey, what y'all doing?" All this kind of stuff. But when they drove off through, I turned around and looked, and everybody was standing behind me because they knew I had the gun. And I looked back at Marianne's husband. I said, "And that's why I carry 99.9% of the time, not for the cryptids, but for stuff like that." And
Greater North American meth heads. Mike from Abnormal Investigations says, "DA or Robbie, do you recommend a revolver or semi-auto?" Now, me personally, I think that's just a preference. But what I recommend, if you're going to carry a firearm, carry whatever you like, carry what you're comfortable with, and carry what you know how to use.
Yep.
To me, the rest is just semantics. I know a couple of guys that won't carry a damn thing if it's not made by SIG, but I don't own a SIG. And it's not because I dislike them; it's because they're expensive. And I've had guns that I paid $200 for that shot circles around a $5,000 SIG.
Yep. And when I teach, my dad teaches CWP classes, and I teach with him sometimes. And I love to rag on high point, but if you're comfortable shooting with a high point and you're good with a high point, then shoot a high point. I mean, I will never tell anybody you need to carry a Glock, or you need to carry a Smith, or you need to carry a SIG. You need to carry what you feel comfortable with, like DA said, and what you can operate. Because if you're not comfortable with what you have out there and you need it, it's probably going to be the last time you ever need it.
Just Ryan, I would disagree with that. 22 long rifle can be very deadly, and every game animal on the face of North America has been brought down with a 22 long rifle. I'm not saying how many rounds it took, but if you're a good shot and you know where to aim, and you've got a 22 long rifle is a deadly little caliber.
And I'd a whole lot rather have a 22 than nothing at all.
Exactly.
Than no firearm.
And a great thing about a 22, like for example, I've got a Kel-Tec P17. It's a 22 long rifle automatic handgun. It carries 17 rounds. But the other one that I've got is a Kel-Tec PMR30. PMR30 shoots 22 Magnum. There's a big difference. The 22 Magnum is almost in the same category as an AR round. 22 Magnum hollow point will do a lot of damage. I used to varmint hunt with 22 Magnum with a rifle. We'd bring in we'd bring in coyotes and other things that were attacking livestock. That's a lethal round, and that PMR 30 holds 30 of them. If you got a PMR 30, and you can get them pretty cheap. I think I paid $300 for mine. You can get a PMR 30 fairly cheap. It comes with a spare magazine, and you can buy others. If you got 3 or 4 magazines for one of those on you, and each one of them fully loaded with hollow points, 22 Magnum, you got 120, 130 rounds. That is a game changer right there, and it doesn't take up much space. So 22 mag is a great round. 22 long rifle is a great round. Dude, I have hunted just about everything with a 22 at one point or another. As when I was a kid, 22 was the only thing I had. It wasn't until I was in my early teens that my dad would let me take the shotgun. If I went hunting, I took my 22 bolt action Steven Savage, and I brought in squirrels with it. I've killed turkey with it. I killed a deer with that 22. You can do it. If you're patient and you aim well, you can bring down just about anything with the 22. But when you're talking about something like a Bigfoot, if you've got to have a firearm to defend yourself from that, it's probably not going to matter what you're carrying so much as where you hit it. And the fact that you've got a firearm at all is probably going to be a bit of a deterrent for anything like that, because it's smart enough to know what a gun is.
Mm-hmm. So I'll say, if that's all I had, I'd a whole lot rather have that than nothing at all. Because people love to rag on 22s, 22, a little bit, but a 223 ain't nothing but a 22 on 22 on steroids. I mean, and until the 5.56 came along, that 223 is what the military carried. Not saying it's the greatest or the best round, but the 22 caliber will do what it needs to do. And I guarantee you, if Doc or Steve were here, they'd tell you probably about 85% of the gunshot wounds that come into the hospital are 22, and a lot of fatal injuries are 22, because a lot of times you get shot in a place that is not necessarily fatal with a bigger caliber, and it just goes through, and is what it is. You get shot with a 22 and it hits a bone on the way in and starts ricocheting around inside of you because it don't have enough power to punch its way through, and pretty soon your organs look like jello because that little 22 round.
You've got to deal with a Bigfoot. If you had that PMR 30 loaded with 22 Magnums, and like Steve Payton was saying just a second ago, for the pelvic girdle, I don't care what you are. If you put 30 rounds into it, it's either going to die or change its mind about having you for dinner.
Yep. So
Casey says their gun to the jewels works well, I hear.
That's what we heard. So, there again, it's a preference thing. If you want to carry something small, compact, lightweight, a lot of ammunition is not going to take, ounces equal pounds, pounds equal pain. If you want to, pack for that, and that's your gun of choice. There's nothing wrong with that.
And again, it is personal preference. I'm not going to, I like Glocks, but I don't specifically just own Glocks. I've got numerous other types of handguns. The gun that you are familiar with, that are comfortable with and know how to take care of and shoot well, that's the gun to carry.
Yep. What other questions we got?
I haven't seen an eco buy, but I might have missed some. First thing I want to cover, and I've mentioned this in shows before, but it's worth mentioning again, is in any survival situation, whether a cryptid is involved or not, one of the things you should all learn, and it's pretty simple to memorize, it's the rule of 3. And if you keep the rule of 3 in mind, then you can plan your own safety. But the rule of 3 is just a very basic very minimal thing to keep in mind. Plus, you can always, you can plan your carry bag or your overnight bag or whatever it is, plan it based on where you're going, of course, but keep that rule of three in mind. Rule of three says you can go 3 minutes without air. That's, in a drowning situation or being choked, you can generally survive 3 minutes without air. You can go 3 hours without shelter in bad conditions like blizzards or severe rain. You've got to find shelter within 3 hours, or you're probably going to die of hypothermia. Depending on your endurance and level of conditioning, you might be able to last longer. There have been cases of people that have walked for days in snowstorms and survived, but on average, most of us are probably only going to last a few hours, and that's just being realistic. I wouldn't gamble walking days through a snowstorm to get help unless I was trying to do it to save somebody else. I would find a place, hole up, try to make fire, and keep out of the elements. You can go 3 days without water. And that's without hydration at all. Now, if you're drinking soda and other stuff, yeah, you can prolong that. I'm not saying that you have to drink water. We have to go every day with water. A lot of people drink soda and stuff like that to stay quenched. But realistically, you should be drinking a lot more water, and especially in a survival situation like that, because alcohol and other stuff are not doing you any favors when it comes to hydration. Water is the best thing you can have out in the field like that, and without any form of hydration, you're going to make it about 3 days before you collapse. And the last one is 3 weeks without food. Now, my stomach's growling at me and thinks I'm mad at it if I go more than 12 hours without eating something, but that's just the fact that we're all kind of getting old and set in our ways, and we're used to getting our meals on the regular. But back when I was young and stupid and of military age, I might go 3 or 4 days without eating, depending on what's going on. And that wasn't necessarily that I wanted to go 2 or 3 days without eating something, but there were just times when you just did not have time to stop for it. You have too much crap going on, too many things, too many variables. Or the only options in MRE, which believe me, I'd rather take a sharp stick to the eye than eat an MRE most days. But if it's a life or death situation, I'm going to eat one. I've ate enough of those things in my lifetime. I don't want to eat anymore. But if it's life or death, then we'll discuss it at that point. But just remember 3 weeks without food, and that doesn't necessarily mean a 2,000 calorie a day diet. That's minimal food, and you can survive a whole lot longer on if you're rationing your food. But just commit that rule of three to memory. It's something that will always serve you well, no matter what environment you're in or where you're going. Robbie, what do you think is one of the? Let's just start out by talking about a survival kit, something you would carry. Let's say you and I are throwing crap in the back of the truck, and we're going to spend. Let's say we're going to spend 3 days down at Smiddle Cave. What is the top 5 items you would put in your bag?
Since we've talked so much about guns, are we going to exclude that and just to say that's a foregone conclusion?
I would say guns, foregone conclusion.
Okay.
You and I are not going anywhere unarmed.
Okay. I just, because obviously if that was something we had to put in there, that's going to be in there. So, knife, some type of blade, pocket knife for fixed, or me, I'm probably going to have a couple
have 3 on me, at least, maybe more.
So a blade of some type, med kit, Dark Angel medical kit. I'm going to have some type of, I'm going to have a space blanket or a bivy or something that I can make an emergency shelter out of if I need to. I'll have a compass, lensatic, preferably. Actually, I usually have lensatic and 2 or 3 of those little cheap compasses too, just in case, because you never know. Because Mr. Murphy always shows up.
Yes, he do. Whether he's not.
Yep, and fire start material. That's going to be my top 5 things that I'm going to make. I mean, obviously, I've got way more stuff than that, but those are the top 5 things that I want to make sure that I've got in there. Because if I've got those 5 things, I can pretty much do everything else I need to do.
was reading an article here recently, and it was written about the old mountain men, frontiersmen back in the days of like Davy Crockett and Jim Bridger and Jedediah Smith and all of those guys that, explored the country before it was a country. And it said all of those guys had the same or a very similar 5-item list that they never left camp without. Something that they always had on them. And the top 5 things that frontiersmen or mountain men carried was a rifle, and that would also include powder horn, powder, extra ammo, a hatchet or a tomahawk, fire starting kit, basic fishing gear, usually just a small amount kept in a tin, and a knife. After those, they could either make or find whatever else they needed. But with those items, they could survive. Now, the chances of us being able to go out and live up in the mountains like a mountain man are probably pretty slim. But those 5 items are generally part of my kit. I've always got at least one knife, usually 3 or 4. I've got a small pocket knife in my pocket. I've got a belt clip knife. I've got a fixed blade knife. And then I've got one that I got. And we've talked about scallywag in the past, but most of the ones I carry are either scallywag or something similar. But they've got this one. It's a little knife. It ain't very big. It fits on a lanyard that goes around your neck. And if I'm generally out of the house, that's on. I've got that on and underneath my shirt. Basic fire start equipment. I've got flint and steel. I've got other methods, but a good striker set is probably an absolute plus. And if you've got basic fishing gear and you can get near water, you can feed yourself. Just takes a little time, a little patience. But then that got expanded by the American cowboy. American cowboy added to that item. It added to those items. While some of them were basically the same. First primary item that the American cowboy carried, number 1 item on their survival chart was a rope. Now, rope, whether you've got it in like paracord size or full-on rappelling ropes, a good piece of rope, you can make shelter with it. You can use it as a fire starter. There's 1,000,001 uses for a piece of rope. So I try to keep at least about 100 yards of 550 cord wound up in my bag.
DA, do you want me? My pack's just in another room. You want me to go get my pack? And
yeah, definitely.
Okay, I'll be right back.
But that cord or rope is a godsend. You can make shelters with it. You can make traps with it. You can replace bootlaces with it. You can use it as basic fire starter. You can use it for build a sling if your arm's hurt. There's just 1,000,001 uses for good cordage or rope. I prefer the 550 cord because I can carry a lot more of it in a lot smaller space. Cowboys also recommended carrying some sort of firearm. Now, ubiquitous handguns became more ubiquitous with cowboys, but they always had their lever guns, their long guns as well. A good knife, and I recommend you carry more than one because different knives are made for different purposes. I've got knives that I would be perfectly willing to grab a chunk of tree and start knocking chunks off of it with the knife, chopping through it, because that's what the knife's made for. Then I got other knives I wouldn't dare do that to because I'd ruin the blade. Then you got a canteen or some sort of water carrier. In modern times, you can get nylagine. The material is called nylagine. Nalgene. I'm sorry, not nylagine. Nalgene. You won't get the problems that you get with what they call microplastics. Nalgene's inert. It's not. You can put it in your dishwasher. It's not going to make your water taste like plastic. A Nalgene water bottle. I got 3 or 4 of the damn things, and I swear by them. But even like the older metal, I can tell you guys. Any of you guys who are veterans out there can tell when I talk about the Army canteens, you will immediately remember that taste because it doesn't taste like a good glass of water. It tastes like a plastic canteen. But I still have 3 or 4 of those, and they do have their uses. A good bedroll. Now, it doesn't necessarily have to be a sleeping bag, but it can be. There are whole sleep systems, and you need to select yours based on your environment. You would not carry the same sleeping bag in Alaska as you would down here in Missouri, because our winters and our nights just don't get that cold. So it depends on, you might if you're down in southern Texas, you might not need nothing more than a blanket and some mosquito netting. So it all depends on where you are and what your bedroll is comprised of. Basic cooking gear that can be, a canteen cup, which I've shaved and eaten meals out of the same metal cup. Basic cookware. And I always recommend having a coffee pot, because no matter how bad things get in the field, a cup of coffee tends to make things much better. A good hat. Not necessarily, I wouldn't wear this one out in the field. This is a really nice hat. This is more of a dress hat, but there's another one. This one I have worn in the field, because this one's designed to take a beating. They're both Stetsons, but this one's a dress hat, and this one's a crushable felt, wear anywhere, get it wet, get it dirty, get it muddy, just dust it off and go back to what you were doing kind of hat. A good hat, you just need a hat that's designed for the role you're wearing it for. This one's better for sitting here talking to y'all, and that one's better for when we're down in Moon Valley. After the hat, cowboys recommend carrying a good bandana, and a good bandana is something that should be part of your kit. Not necessarily talking like the cowboy bandanas, but something along those lines. I have a chamois that I take out in the field, because if I need fire starter, I can cut a little piece off of it. I can use that to start fires. If I need to filter water just to get particulates out of it, I can filter water through it. If it's dusty and the wind's blowing, I can get it damp and wrap it around my face to keep the dust out of my mouth. There's 1,000,001 uses. I mean, if you get a hurt arm, you can use it as a sling. There's a lot of uses for a good bandana or a chamois. And lastly, cowboys carried leather chaps and gloves, because walking through the brush, there are thorns, and they can and will cut you. And it's a good idea to have those in case you've got snakes. So I would recommend, not necessarily full on cowboy chaps, but maybe some snake gaiters, or a good pair of snake boots. But Robbie's actually got his go bag. I'll let him kind of walk you through what he's got in it.
All right. First, this is, and whatever size bag or whatever you want to get, you can get. I got this at, believe it or not, I got it at a Buc-ee's. It's a Yukon Outfitters, and I got a really good deal on it. Matter of fact, I got it on my way to DA's one time. And
you did that Buc-ee's by Sevierville?
I think that's the one I got it at. But it's pretty much mil spec. I mean, it's not a military type, but it's just one of the little over-the-shoulder type. But it's got the mall tabs and all that stuff. But past that, I got a couple of extra Grimlock connectors on there. That's how I've got my throwing stick on there, so just starting from the side. I've got that, and this thing right here, you can pretty much, it's a survival tool. You can actually hunt with this. This is based on an Aboriginal design.
Does take some practice.
Yeah, but DA's seen this thing, you can throw this thing a mile just about, but
that thing will fail.
You can dig holes with it. You can use it as a kind of a little walking stick to help you go up if you're going up a hill. Like I said, there's 1,000,001 uses for this thing, and it fits perfectly right there on the side of my bag, out of the way. On the other side of the bag, got my gloves, a set of goggles, and they're the tinted kind. So if I'm out walking through the woods during the daytime, I can protect my eyes from sticks and the sun all at the same time. Got a couple other carabiners up here. Oh, where's that? I saw somebody put something about a personal locator beacon. I've got that on there. Also got my Dark Angel.
No, that's not like a boomerang. It won't come back to you.
No, yeah, it won't come back to you, but it'll definitely hurt whatever it goes to. Then I've got my Scallywag Tactical Redonda. Somebody asked me earlier what my preference on the blade is. I've either got this one or my Gunner's Mate on there. Maybe.
Good idea.
I'm afraid he might throw it through whatever he's throwing it at, though.
Or at least embed it in it.
Yeah. But like I said, got my Dark Angel medical kit on this side. Now, this pack is packed for survival and for what we do out in the field. So as I go through the pockets, some things may equate to survival and camping. Some things may equate to investigating in the field. So start with on this first top pack, I've got a couple of space blankets, and these things are cheap.
Weight gold, folks, and they're dirt cheap.
Yeah,
and this is.
I've got 3 in here and 2 in here, so I've got 5 of these things right here. Now, these space blankets you can do just about anything with you, from keeping yourself warm, radiating heat back on you, reflecting as a signal beacon or whatever. Knife sharpener. I know we've talked about having stuff like that on there. This is just a little cheap one that I got from I think I got it from Cabela's. Just something to carry. So if I get a burr on my knife or whatever in the field, I can take care of my blades while I'm in the field. Lensatic compass, paracord, and like I said, this is multi-purpose. I've got some little evidence bags, like if we get hair or scat or whatever, just some little plastic bags that we can put evidence in. Then move down to the next pack or next pocket. Fire starter kit. I've got, and this is not the only fire starter kit I've got in here. I've got multiple. This is one that's got matches, wood matches, and got some tinder in a little waterproof container. Then I've got some more tinder. These things you can unwind them and cut them, and it just extra tinder, because you never can use too much or you can't ever not have enough of that. An emergency whistle, and I may have multiple of some of this stuff in here. So if I pull something out that I've already pulled out, guess what? It's a redundancy, because sometimes things break. Sometimes waterproof containers aren't waterproof, and stuff gets wet, so you need to have a backup to your backup. So if
you
I
ever
pull
fallen on your back and crushed a waterproof container? Done that a few times.
That's why you have redundancies built in. Then, and that's why I said that, because I knew what I was opening next was more paracord, but this one has got a 200-pound fishing magnet on it.
Robert Clymer said, "Robbie, where's that kit from again?" The pack? The pack itself, he bought it at Buc-ee's.
Yep, I got the pack at Buc-ee's. But everything else, I
there's
built
a million and one packs out there. You got to pick the pack based on your need, how much you need to carry, and what's comfortable for you. Because a pack I might find comfortable, you might not.
Yep. So I said, packs you can get. You get what you feel comfortable, because this may not be comfortable to other people.
Patricia, I generally keep a small sewing kit. When I was in the Army, I used it to suture up a buddy of mine's leg, which is really not the brightest thing we ever did, but we were miles from anywhere, and there was no chance of going back to the post to get to the hospital. He's like, "You got your sewing kit?" I'm like, "Yeah." He goes, "Stitch that son of a gun up," and I did. It wasn't pretty, but it worked.
And somebody asked me one time, "Why you carry a fishing magnet in your survival pack?" Well, let's say you're lost or whatever, and you look over the creek and you see a big hunk of metal just laying there. You got a way to get it now, and that metal can do a lot of things, from reflecting, a space that you can build a fire on, or if you don't have cooking ware like DA was talking about earlier, you can build a fire underneath it, heat that metal up, and you can cook on it once you clean it off.
You can also do that with flat rocks.
Yeah.
Get them hot and cook on them. Casey, absolutely. 2 is 1 and 1 is none. I try to keep 3 of everything.
Yep.
And if it's lightweight, and probably more than that.
All right, moving on to the big pack, and this is where a lot of the stuff, extra for pew-pews, extra freedom seeds. Now here's where things start coming into the multi-purpose stuff. Got that because you've heard us talk about using hairspray for casting in sand.
Mm-hmm.
My knife I hit my foot. Rain poncho. That's one of them good ones. Good Army issued ones. And casting material. And you've heard us talk about
life. Exactly.
What do you say?
Life straw.
Oh yeah, it's I'm getting there. The sticks we talked about for like firming things up, but you can use these aren't necessarily just for
twigs if necessary, but those are still good to have on.
But you can use these for like triggers on traps and things like that. Like, if you need something exactly cut in length and making a flat trigger for a spring trap, perfect for that. Another fishing magnet with more paracord. Like I said, you can't ever have too much of anything.
Robert Clymer said fishing line. At Walmart, they sell these little, what they call fishing survival kits. They're about that big, about that thick. They're clear plastic. They've got 2 or 3 bobbers in it, 6 or 8 hooks, about 100 feet of fishing line. Just your bare basics. It's something you could slip in a pack, and you could tie an end of a string, end of a fishing line around a good sized piece of wood or a stick, and lower a hook in the water and fish. It ain't a top of the line casting rod or fly fishing rod, but in a pinch, you can catch some fish with it.
Yeah. And my smaller pouches that I attached to the side of it, I took off, and they're still out in the truck. So the ones on my live straw and all that stuff that I attached to the other sides of it, I didn't remember that I had those out in the truck, but that's where my live straw and sewing kit and fishing kit and all that stuff is in those smaller ones. And I attach those usually to these side packs over here, and I attach one to the front here, and that's what I can. That's why you carry all these extra Grimlocks and carabiner attachments and things for.
Because you never have a Grimlock clips.
And I think my Dew Claw's in one of those bags, because that's just an overall good camp knife.
Jeff Yarn got it right. Says it'd be strapping a good hatchet. Yeah, I've got 2 or 3 hatchets, one of which is generally on my pack, and generally another one on my belt.
Well, I've got my big pack that I carry in the truck that usually stays in the truck. That's got, and DA seen me do this. Sometimes I might take, depending on where we're at or what we're doing, I might take some things out and restock them. I've got a big pack that I always carry with me too, and it's got stuff like my boarding axes in that, some other type. I've got some more survival type stuff in that pack. Just depending on where we're at and what we're doing, I may not need the casting material, so I may take it out and replace it with something. Like if we're going into a really hairy area, I may put more survival type stuff in there, not worry too much about. Because in the end, I don't care if we cast anything or not. We're out there for ourselves and not for our 15 minutes of fame, so to speak. So
yeah, we're happy to share whatever we find, but
yeah,
we're not trying to get famous. We're just having a good time.
If I need to, if something's going to go and I need to make room for, more survival gear, that hairspray and that casting stuff will come right out of there to make room for our survival gear.
Marcus Antonius says, how do you keep Sasquatch from smelling you? Well, there are a number of ways you can get rid of your scent. You can burn sage in your campfire and walk through the smoke. There's a lot of old tricks you can do to try to get rid of your scent. But Bigfoot, I would guess, in my experience, knows you're there long before you know you're there. If you're in the woods, we're not subtle. I mean, humans are not made to be, Well, no, I take that back. There's some folks that I've knew who were Army Rangers who could go in the woods and disappear like a fart in a windstorm. I mean, just gone. But most of us aren't that good. I mean, even sitting in a deer stand, you're still going to make noise. You're going to move. You might bump something with your rifle. It's a real trick to be absolutely quiet, and not all of us can master that. I've gone deer hunting with people that could not shut up. The moment it got quiet at all, they're like, "So why don't I see any deer?" Because you keep freaking talking. Shut up. There's some people just can't sit still and be quiet. And I'm not saying that makes them a bad person. It's just some people just aren't wired that way. So I wouldn't worry so much about a Bigfoot smelling you, because they're probably going to be aware of your presence and hear you long before they ever smell you.
Yeah, I don't think, personal opinion, I don't think there's anything you can do to stop them from smelling you.
Evan's
I just don't.
Headlamps, zip ties, glow sticks, and batteries. I keep extras, all of those.
Yep. Those, like I said, the smaller packs that I attach to those that go with me when I go with that, they're out in the truck. So I didn't have my full pack like I thought I did. But I had to take them off because I just wore the smaller packs for the smaller trips we went on the expedition a couple months ago, and I just never reattached them to the bag. But they're in the truck, so usually if I take off, that goes. We'll take that, so they're there. I just have not reattached them yet.
Carlin Neal says, "DA, I learned woodcraft in the Army. There was a time if I didn't want to see or hear me, you didn't." I know guys that are still like that. I mean, there was a time I was pretty damn good at it, but I'm a little old and slow for that sort of high speed adventures. I used to joke and think I was high speed, low drag, but I'm now more low speed, high drag. And that's just being realistic. At 55 with health issues, I'm not going to be the guy that's climbing Mount Everest or anything like that. But that doesn't mean we can't be safe and we can still be prepared. We can't still be prepared. White Rook says, I live outside of Harrisburg, PA. I always tell folks you're safer on the Appalachian Trail than downtown Harrisburg. That being said, I carry a 10 millimeter in the woods and 9 millimeter for the hood. Yeah, I don't check my mail without a gun. And the FBI released the crime statistics for 2024. I was reading them here not too long ago. And of the top 15 cities in the United States for violent crime, 3 of them are here in Missouri: Kansas City, St. Louis, and Springfield. We were like 14, I think. St. Louis is number 2, right behind Memphis, and Kansas City's like number 8. So dangerous crap, and that's just dealing with people. But you if you've maintained situational awareness, aware of what's going on around you, you're watching your surroundings, and you don't present yourself as a victim, you can be safe just about anywhere. But there are going to be people that are going to try you. But whether that's going to be a bear in the woods or somebody as you're getting out of your car to pump gas, you just got to be aware of your surroundings, and you've got to project confidence. Because if you're walking around with your head in your phone and not paying attention to what you're doing, you're just making yourself into a victim.
Yep, you're right, Steve. Slow is smooth, smooth is fast.
Dang right. I used to have a T-shirt that had a picture of a 1911 round on it. It said 45 ACP 1911 because short, fat, and slow gets the job done.
Yep. That's usually what I've got on me is my 1911.
Roxanne says DA Joplin's not far behind them. The way things are going around there, I always arm myself when in Joplin. My general rule of thumb is if there are people around, there's the chance for somebody to be bad. So prepare yourself accordingly. And Missouri is a constitutional carry state, so as long as you're not a felon, you can carry a firearm concealed in the state of Missouri without a permit. And I'm a retired cop, so I've got that going for me. But even if I wasn't, yeah, I would still have a handgun on when I went just about anywhere. Just Ryan says, I keep hearing life raft, calorie food bar, water, and pepper spray in my car. I live in SoCal. We learned earthquakes can disable freeways, and you might have to walk home or get stuck somewhere. Yeah, just basic survival items on hand. Keeping a go kit in the back of your car is a great idea. Have a little bit of water, have a filtration system, have a couple of blankets, have some basic food like protein bars or something like that. You should keep at least 3 days worth of that in your car, because you never know when a trip to across town becomes an all-day ordeal, or if you're traveling somewhere in the winter and you slide off the road and nobody notices you're off the road. Those basic survival items might be all the difference between making it through it and not. Robert D says, are you allowed to walk in Walmarts with a sidearm on you in our state? Yes. Unless it is has specific signs saying no firearms allowed, you can carry pretty much anywhere. You can't carry in courthouses. You can't carry in federal courthouses. And there are other places like anything that's a government building, like the DMV and stuff like that. Yeah, schools. You can't carry in there. Robbie and I are a little different because we've got Leosa cards. We got Leo cards. We can carry pretty much, in the bank and anywhere but like a federal courthouse. I could probably even carry in a local courthouse, although I don't, because I don't go in there very often, and I just don't want to. If I do have to go to court, I just don't even deal with the hassle. Even though everybody that works in court security, I know all of them. But one thing they taught us when I was still a deputy is if you can conceal it, do it, because if you're somewhere and somebody comes in to rob the place, his first target is going to be the guy with a gun where you can see it.
Yeah, and honestly, that used to be why I didn't carry when I was young and dumb and first started in law enforcement. And but things were not quite as bad back then as they are now. So the older I've gotten, the smarter I've got. I'm like DA. I don't go out and check my mail without my gun. If I'm sitting out in my garage working on knives, I've got my gun on.
I'm the same. I mean, if I'm going to just pick up takeout, I've got either a gun on me or in the car. I've got a holster for my Smith, my 357, that fits perfectly between the center console and the side of my chair, so I can just slip it right down in there and have that 357 right there where I can grab it easy.
Yep. Well, I'm kind of lucky on something. Our chief is really pro us carrying no matter what. He said, I don't care what you're doing. He said, I want you carrying 24/7. So he took a bunch of the guns that we had seized off people over the years and went and did a trade into the pawn shop and got credit for them and worked out actually it wasn't the pawn shop this time. It was a little gun store we got in the city. And in South Carolina, if a police department trades guns in, they can use what the value that the store would give to them. They can use it for guns and ammunition. So Chief worked out a deal with them and got us Glock 43s for backup weapons. So every officer's got the little small Glock 43 as backups. Because a lot of guys are like, and I don't want to carry that full size everywhere I go.
Oh,
and
that's the 40 cal, isn't it?
What, the 43?
40 or 10 millimeter?
43 is 9.
It's a 9. Okay.
Yeah.
Because my backup was a Glock 26 baby Glock.
Yep.
And it's 9.
Yep. the 43 and 43X. That's just the new version of them. I think now when I was at Seneca, I carried the baby gap. That's what all the investigators carried. I didn't like that. It was too small for me, which that one's small too, but I don't have to carry that one every day. I had to carry that baby gap every day, and I did not like it because I got big hands, and I begged and begged and begged my lieutenant to let me carry a full size. He wouldn't. He said, nope, investigators carry this. I'm like, all right, whatever, little hands. But yeah, it is what it is. But yes, so he did that so we would have an option, because like I said, he wants us to. Now, me, it just depends on what day of the week it is. As to what I might have the 5.7 on me, the rock, or I might have the dagger. I might carry my duty weapon. I might carry the backup. I might carry the revolver. Most days, I feel like putting on the 45, but it's nice to have options. And I know not everybody's got that option, but get something that you're comfortable with. And
just Ryan said, did you have a magazine extension for your pinky DA? No, I just got used to shooting it like that. I had a Gen 5 Glock 26, and you can't get the little pinky extensions for the Gen 5 for some reason, because they changed the base of the 26 from the Gen 4 to Gen 3. It won't take those little mag slide-on pouches like you could get, the little slide-on clips that would extend the pinky. You can't. It won't. I can't find them for a Gen 5, so I just get used to it. Whiteworks has been thinking about the PSA 5.7. Robbie's got one, and he likes it a lot.
I like my rock. You shot it, DA. I mean, I know my hollow sun was not exactly set in that time, but it shoots good though.
It does shoot very well, but you've really got to get that co-witnessed.
Yeah,
because the sights were way off.
But once we started using the iron, we figured that out and used the iron sights. It was dead on. We couldn't use the hollow sun because we hadn't got it set in right.
Greg House says, I'm probably one of the very few Leos that carry a Norinco MAK 90 AK-47 instead of a AR-15. 7.62 does hit harder, but I've always preferred the AR platform. But I know guys that have carried bigger as their backup weapon. There's an old boy, a buddy of mine in a county just to the south of us, that carries an AR chambered in 458 SOCOM because he convinced his chief of his department that the only times he's ever had to pull his rifle in a patrol situation was because of bears, and he didn't want to just piss it off with a 5.56. So the chief lets him carry an AR chambered in 458 SOCOM.
Sending the Buick downrange.
Right. Carol Goodell says Buffalo Bore now has a 10 millimeter hard cast, 220 grain, 1,250 feet per second. That'll get something's attention. But again, all this is just comes down to preference. It doesn't matter what you carry. What does matter is that you're proficient with it and know how to maintain the weapon and how to use it properly. You can have the greatest handgun in the world, but if you don't know how to maintain it or to properly shoot it, it's not going to do you any good. There was a kid that was in our department, and it was when I was with the hospital. And I'm not going to mention anybody's names. I'm not going to bust anybody out, but I had my own personal sidearm I was qualifying with. It was a used Gen 3 Glock 17 that I bought for $200. Thank you, Whitewood. Thank you for the super chat, man. I bought this for $200. And the only modifications it had two. The only modifications were Glock factory night sights put on by a Glock certified armorer and a TLR1 light. That was it. And this kid had a top of the line SIG that he'd spent more than $3,500 on, and then turned around and put another like $3,000 or $4,000 worth of fancy options on it. And we went out to the line on qualifier day, and he looks over at me and goes, "Try and keep up, old man." He failed the qualifier 4 times. I ran the qualifier and scored in the high 90s my first run through. I'm like, oh, okay. I told him, at the end of the day, you don't need a $5,000 gun. You need a $500 gun and $4,500 worth of lessons. He didn't talk to me much after that. Bobby, yes, I have fired dragon's breath. They are more impressive at night, but they're still pretty damn cool during the day. Casey says busted out. I haven't heard that in a minute. Sonia, I don't dislike SIGs. I don't own one simply because they're generally out of my price range. But with what's going on with the SIG 320 right now, with it going off, until they fix that, I probably won't buy one. And it's not because I dislike them, but I will say this about SIGs. SIGs are generally very ammo finicky. They generally only shoot well with SIG ammunition. Now, some people may have had a different experience, but every SIG I've ever dealt with, it was very ammo finicky. And now, what I like about my Glock, and I'm not just saying this because I like the Glocks, but one of the things I really like about this is I can take a helmet and pour 6 different kinds of ammo into that helmet, shake it up real good, and start loading my magazines, and that Glock will not miss a beat. Doesn't care what ammo it is, it just keeps right on punching. And you can't do that with a SIG. You just simply can't. White says a flamethrower would be awesome. Yeah, but I don't want to start a forest fire just to get rid of a Bigfoot. Hey, Irene, thank you for joining us. Now, you showed your space blankets earlier, folks. Definitely, if you're gonna do anything in the field, or if you travel in the winter, those are dirt cheap. You could, for like less than $10, you can get a whole bag of them off Amazon, and there might be 8 or 10 of them in that bag. Just check what the listing says. Those things you can save. You can stay warm with just one space blanket. You can wrap yourself in it and preserve body heat. And they also work great for hiding from thermals.
Yep. But you can also, if you build yourself a small lean-to and you put the reflective side behind you, and then you sleep in between the fire and the reflective side, you will effectively turn yourself into a baked potato, because you will be sweating by the time the daylight comes around, because all that heat will roll over top of you and reflect back onto you off of that reflective side. So
backup pairs of glasses. If you need glasses, keep a backup pair. That's a good one. Also, if you have medication that you have to take, keeping a week's worth in different containers in your bag might be a great idea. That stuff you absolutely have to have. If you get stranded somewhere and don't have your meds with you, having a week's worth of those meds in your bag could be a godsend. Robert Clymer says a big leaf bag keep you warm and dry with holes for the head and arms. That's true. That's one of those emergency situations.
That's effectively a homemade poncho. I've seen a lot of YouTube survival channels that talk about doing that. It's actually
He's got a good comment. Always maintain your weapons. A friend of mine had a Kmart SK. It's set and it's gun club and the firing pin stuck, and it dumped a 30-round mag in his backyard. Yeah, you've got to take good care of your stuff. I mean, if you don't keep and maintain your firearms, they will fail you at the worst possible time. Even the most reliable guns in the world will fail you if they get wet, rusty, dirty. You've got to keep your weapons maintained. They say that firearms only have 2 natural enemies: rust and politicians.
That's true.
But yeah, just like a small cleaning kit stuck in your bag. Don't take up much space, but allow you to keep your weapons cleaned and oiled. Especially if you end up dumping yourself into water or it rains real hard. First chance you get, dry that weapon out thoroughly, oil it again. Otherwise, you're probably going to set yourself up for some misfires. Hi, Robin. I'm having a good weekend so far. Hope you are too. Now, we talked about the first aid kit, and you know, nobody beats the kits over at Dark Angel Medical, and I'm not just saying that because Doc's family to me, but I carried one of his kits as a cop forever, and I'm telling you, the the difference it makes to having a good kit versus having a crappy kit or even no kit. And a cheap kit that you spent $20 on, when the chips are down, may not have what you need in it. Most of those cheap kits, if you get for $20, might have a roll of gauze, and if you're really lucky, it's got a usable tourniquet in it. But mostly, it's just Band-Aids and stuff in one of those cheap kits. If you don't have a specific trauma kit, you are living on borrowed time, because you never know when you might need one of those kits to save your life or someone nearby you, near close to you, close by. Could be somebody you care about, could be a complete stranger. But and even if you don't carry a firearm, or if you're not planning on getting involved in a situation, if you're at the grocery store and some jackass tries to rob that grocery store and puts a few rounds out, it might hit you, might hit somebody next to you, might hit a kid, might hit your kid. And not having one of those kits, the only thing you're going to do is sit there and watch them bleed until 911 either arrives or they bleed out. So having a good trauma kit on hand is absolutely essential in this day and age, because people are stupid. And I don't mean individually. I mean, y'all are awesome folks, but just think about when you're dealing with crowds. Think about, like, if you're going to a concert, the first time something happens, you will get trampled. Something bad happens, you can get trampled to death easily at a concert. It's happened many times. Or if you go to a show and something violent breaks out, you could get crushed to death or get caught in a crossfire. And there's just 1,000,001 things that could happen in your day-to-day life that we just don't even really take into account. You never know when something like that. You could be driving down the road and somebody cuts you off and you do something innocuous like honk at them, and they'll shoot at you. I mean, it happens. You watch the headlines. It happens all the time. We got road rage incidents are on the rise, and we're not just talking about being safe when you're out in the woods looking for Bigfoot, but you ought to have preparations and plans in place anytime you're out in public, because you never know when the unthinkable could happen. Heck, it could be something as simple as a car crash. No firearm involved, but you shatter a window and that glass goes to flying. It can do a lot of damage to folks. So trust me when I tell you, it is a very good idea for you to have a good first aid kit and a good trauma kit, and keep them. You keep one in your vehicle. Keep one if you're going to be out in the woods or going camping or anything like that. Take a kit with you. Be prepared, because like the quote from Longmire, you get a situation like that, you are 911.
Yep. Like Hoot said in Black Hawk Down, this here's my safety.
Dang right. Yeah, Cajun dog, fall down a hill. Yeah, you could trip and fall, like walking down a trail. Hell, I've seen people fall off the sidewalk into a ditch and come up with a compound fracture. Yeah, you got bone punching through the skin. You need a tourniquet, and you need it right then and there, because even in the middle of town, a 911 might be 8 to 10 minutes away. And if you've ever seen anybody bleeding that's hit an artery, you ain't got 8 to 10 minutes.
Nope. Doc's got a video that shows that very thing that he shows in his classes. Seconds.
Yeah.
And not many of them.
And the bigger the artery, the faster that's going to happen. But like we were saying, being safe if you're in Sasquatch territory, a lot of that transfers to pretty much any situation. Well, the story we talked at the beginning of the show, when the guy noticed his equipment was gone, his first mistake was he left everything behind when he went to gather wood. Now, I know he wasn't expecting anybody to mess with his equipment, but I wouldn't have left the backpack.
Mm-mm.
I would have had a weapon on, and I'd have had something to cut wood, but I'd have kept emergency equipment on me. Because, let's say you just leave your kit, leave your medical kit, leave everything, and the only thing you take is a hatchet and maybe a saw to go out and cut some wood. And well, assuming Bigfoot is not there, they're not stealing your equipment, but while you're chopping some limbs, hatchet hits something, bounces off, and you put an 8-inch gash in your leg with a hatchet, and it's bleeding bad. Where's your med kit? That's why I heavily differentiate between the equipment I keep on my belt and the equipment I keep on my bag. But there are lots of situations. Anybody that's ran a chainsaw has had that chainsaw bite and pop back at them. I've known guys that have almost lost legs over it. You can do a lot of damage with even a little electric chainsaw. If it binds and then snaps back at you, if you ain't careful, you can lay a leg completely open. Just be prepared. And that's a situation that's not even involving a Bigfoot. Another thing he did, it didn't even talk about whether or not he had flashlights. The account didn't say that at all.
I would say he probably didn't, because he got his bag back, and if he hadn't seen that camp or that campfire, he said it was getting dark on him. So I would be
assuming he didn't have anything like that.
Yeah,
just the way the story was told. But even something as simple as a headband, flashlight just clipped on, be all the difference in the world when it comes to getting down a trail in the dark.
I've got 5 of those in my bag.
I've got one that runs on batteries and one that's rechargeable, plus numerous other sources of light. Cajun Dogs has had an axe bounce and got hit in the head with the hammer side. Now imagine if that'd been a 2-headed axe, brother.
Well, and just random things you don't think of. One of my buddies, he was doing work out in his front yard, and they had a big long driveway, and it was during an ice storm, and they had a tree fall across their driveway. So he's out there with his bobcat trying to pull the tree off the driveway. He's got the chain wrapped around the tree, and then it's hooked onto the bobcat, and he's backing up trying to pull the tree out. The chain, I can't remember if it snapped or just came loose, but it was under tension. And he's sitting there pulling back on that thing, and all of a sudden he looks and he sees chain piling up in the floor of that bobcat. And he said by the time he looked up, all he saw was that hook coming straight at him, and it cracked him right in between the eyes. He said he woke up, don't know how long later, but he woke up with the bobcat bouncing up against a tree. Now, luckily, he was right there at the house, and it busted him open. But if he'd have been out somewhere, logging in, in the middle of nowhere, and that had happened, that could have gone bad quick. I mean, not that it was great, as it was, but knocked himself out trying to pull a tree out of the driveway with a logging chain. I mean, how freak and random is something like that?
So anything can happen at any time is the moral of that.
I was mowing a yard one time and kicked a rock up, and it slung it out from underneath the mower, hit the side of the house and bounced back and cut me across the side of the head. Now, it wasn't that bad, but if it can come out with enough force, it could hit you somewhere else vital and cause some damage.
Well, you remember what happened to me a couple months ago when I was drilling holes, and I think it was Doc's knife. I was drilling holes in the handle, and if I hadn't been wearing my leather apron,
yeah, you'd have laid yourself open.
Mm-hmm.
Shadow Gypsy says, "Look what happened to Jeremy Renner." Yeah, he had a snow machine him over, damn near killed him.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It ain't just out in the wild wilderness where stuff like this can happen. Like you said, Jeremy Renner, that happened at his house. The thing with my drill press on that happened right here. I mean, and that thing with me, if that had laid me open and hit an artery, I wouldn't be here because I was the only one here. If that had laid me open, and I had seconds. Same thing with Jason with that. If that had cracked his skull, because his wife was inside the house, didn't know what was going on. Things can happen at any time. That's why we always say situational awareness, be prepared. Like I had my leather apron on. Did I think that, the drill press was going to catch that thing and swing it around and swipe across that? No. But had I not had that leather apron on, it could have been bad. So always do what you need to do to protect yourself, whether you're going out in the woods or whether you're just messing around in your shop.
I was looking at some of the comments. Yeah, there are tons of everyday situations from yard work to traffic where you could get a nasty injury. And if you don't have one of those kits on hand, you're dialing 911 and praying they get there in time. And, there's lots of things like that. If you don't carry a knife, you may find yourself in a situation, God forbid, you flip your car over and you can't get out. Smell smoke, car's catching on fire, and you can't get the seatbelt undone. That's one of the reasons I always have a knife. But a knife's got 1,000,001 uses. I carry a firearm to not just defend myself, but to defend my family. I've generally got my wife or at least one of my sons with me anywhere I go. And situations turn ugly. There's a convenience store just 2 blocks from where I'm sitting. It's a Maverick now, but it used to be Come and Go. Come and Go got bought out by Maverick. But just like 3.5, 4 years ago, a Springfield officer that I knew well, Chris Walsh, was pursuing a guy, and the guy pulled into that Come and Go and jumped out shooting, and he killed Chris and one of the Come and Go workers and a couple of bystanders, just a couple of blocks from my house. And Chris was a good dude, and he didn't deserve that. And just a guy doing his job. But the guy that went to work to Come and Go that day sure didn't expect it either, nor did the bystanders. That was a bad event, and that was just a couple of blocks from here, and it was one of those things. We just thought it was another regular night, nothing big going on. And when I was in uniform, I can't tell you the number of nights I just thought, oh, it's just another boring shift. And things can go south real fast. And that's why I always carried one of those kits. And I made sure that everybody I worked with knew where that kit was at, because odds were very good they were going to be using that kit on me. And it's just something to keep in mind. I mean, whether you're a first responder or you're just going to check your mail, we get porch pirates that are stealing stuff off people's porches from their Amazon deliveries, people in road rage incidents. We're living in a dangerous world. And to not have a way to defend yourself and to not have a med kit on hand, you're basically playing dice with your life. Yeah, White Rook says a nut just jumped the fence and burned down part of the Pennsylvania governor's house. Crap can happen to anyone. That's absolutely a fact. Home invasions are on the rise. If you look at FBI crime statistics, there's a lot more people that are brazenly, sometimes even in broad daylight, kicking in somebody's door and coming in and robbing them blind at gunpoint. Now, you also hear stories about them kicking in the wrong door and somebody putting them down. But most of these cases, they study these houses. They'll kick in the door of the elderly or people they know live alone, or they'll watch somebody and see when they know they're not going to be there. It can happen in any neighborhood. Doesn't matter how upscale you live or how bad the neighborhood is. Crime happens, and it happens everywhere, all around us, all the time. And one thing I learned in 20 plus years in law enforcement, and I'm sure Robbie can back this up as well. When it comes to dealing with people, there are only two kinds of people in this world. There are good people and there are bad people. And beyond that, I can't say it's because the person was raised this way or the person was, this race or that background or what have you. There are good people and bad people, and that's what it boils down to. At the end of the day, it's the good folks against the bad folks. And while I do believe that the good people still outnumber the bad people, there's a lot of the bad people out there and a lot of good folks that ain't doing anything about it. So unfortunately, it's the bad folks that are not only getting all the press, but doing maximum amount of damage. Hell, you hear stories about people walking up to folks on the street, and this happens mostly in big cities, but it's happened a couple of times up off the square here in Springfield. Somebody walking down the street, minding their own business, and some guy just steps up and hits them.
Mm-hmm. Yep. They were doing that to elderly people last year. The slapping older people until they messed around and slapped that old guy and found out about old man strength, and he beat the ever-loving tar out of about 3 of them. Good.
Jeremy Lee says tweakers are getting bad everywhere. If I get approached by somebody like that, and I've gotten very good at spotting tweakers over the years, and it don't take any special skill to do it. You just got to be observant. But if I start getting approached by somebody like that, especially like in a store or on the street, the first thing I do is blade my body out where my left side's facing him and my right hand goes to my hip. Like, what do you want?
Yep, Cajun, he was. That's the guy Dana White saw the video and made sure that guy, I think he flew him in first class and gave him front row tickets to the next UFC event. That was, I mean, he was like, yeah, this dude knew what he was doing. So yeah, he's either, like I said, a whole old school boxer, or he was in the military, or he was something. He knew how to take care of himself, and they come up and slapped him, and he didn't go down like all these other ones had. They found out real quick, oh, this game ain't as fun as we thought it was.
It's not going to take but them hitting the wrong guy and him falling back a couple of steps and putting 2 in their chest.
White Rock, yeah, I've been in on a few operations where we shut down some grows, and I'm sure the cartel was involved in it, but it was locals that were.
We had M13 right here in Springfield. Dealt with them in the jail on a number of occasions.
Generally, if you live in an area that's got a lot of mountains and places like that, then I'm sure you took the words right out of my mouth. I was just about to say, I'm sure there's thousands of grows in the Mark Twain, because buddy of mine used to, or the same guy just talking about, just knocked himself out. He used to go up with his buddy, was one of the pilots for the sled unit that flew over and looked for the grows. And he said they're all, and it's weird because you wouldn't think from the air that you would be able to tell the difference between the green of trees and the green of marijuana, but he said it stands out like a sore thumb. It's just, if they haven't camouflaged it right and it's visible, he said it's just like it almost glows compared to the rest of the stuff. He said, and they're all over the place.
Daniel, yes, I never had to use my med kit at Cox because it was a hospital, and we generally just got them to the nurses. But I have had to Narcan about a dozen people there at the hospital. I can't. There would be just about any given Friday night we were dropping Narcan on somebody. But in other places, yes, I have had to use med kit. Was out doing some filming, and a guy that I knew fell and tore his leg up pretty good, and I put him back together and got him to the ER. I've people fall. There are lots of occasions where med kit gets busted out. I've never had to plug a bullet hole, knock on wood, on myself or anyone else for that matter, and I hope I don't, but I know how to. So it's one of those things that's kind of like having a parachute. It's better to have it and not need it than need it and not have it, because if you ever need it and don't have it, you'll never need it again.
That's 100% accurate.
Dr. 45 said, DA, have you heard about farms being bought? Then the next season, the owners are gone around Lebanon. I have heard about that. I've got some family that are still first responders up in Macleod County. So I've heard a bit about some of that going on. Mary Cole says, I wonder if the old man who was camping made it out, or if Bigfoot went after him. The article.
He talked about them. Yeah, they emailed each other.
Yeah, it didn't go into detail whether or not the guy had any experiences after that, but it did say that they did exchange emails after Jason got out of the woods.
Or they exchanged emails before he left, and then they emailed each other back and forth.
Well, I know Dr. 45, speaking of stuff happening around Lebanon, I know years ago, there's a campground down in Mountain Creek. It's on the Niagara River. That place, I used to go down there as a kid and we'd camp, but then people started staying away because it turned into basically bikers and I'm not saying that all bikers are bad folks, but I mean the bad kind. It was meth and marijuana and bikers and all kinds of really, really shady shit. So the locals stayed the hell away from Mountain Creek for years. And my sister and her husband like to go camping. And she was telling me just like a year ago that they go to Mountain Creek. I'm like, seriously? She goes, oh, yeah. They went in and cleaned that all out. It's a whole different place. You need to go down and check it out. I haven't been down there since, but I know Mountain Creek used to be really rough. That was one of those places in the county you just didn't go. And I'm kind of interested to go down and check it out. Next time, Robbie, you're up this way, we'll go down and we'll go check out Mountain Creek because do you remember in Wolf Moon where the little bastard was killed? That's right there by Mountain Creek.
Oh, okay.
That's like a mile from Mountain Creek. In fact, the campground where Gray Eagle found Micah and them, that was Mountain Creek.
The old little bastard. I forgot about him.
Yeah.
He might have been a little bastard. I don't think he didn't deserve quite what he got, but
no, he did not. I tell you, of all of those characters, the one I really truly feel sorry for is Mike Blanchard.
Mike's been through it.
He's
and still going through it.
Yeah.
Oh my!
Dr. 45, no idea why the Bigfoot targeted that guy. Probably wrong place, wrong time. Maybe it smelled the food, or maybe it just didn't want him messing around in its area. Anya says she remembers that. Yeah, right there in Apex Predator Wolf Moon, where that spot where Doc ends up saving Mike Blanchard's life and driving him back to town. That's maybe a mile, maybe from Mountain Creek. Through the woods, it's not that far. I could drive you right to that spot. Cajun, you'll find out how Mike's doing in the book I'm about done with. And let's just say, poor guy still ain't faring much better.
Nope.
White Rook says, need to jump off hiking near Gettysburg tomorrow. Going to try and be on the live ones when I can. Everyone have a great night. You too, be safe and take lots of pictures. That's a beautiful area. But keep your head on a swivel because it's also an area that has sightings. Somebody says that's where Micah decided he liked Doc. Yep. Yeah, Cajun says got his chest ripped open. Yeah, Mike Blanchard hates those damn things, but he keeps getting dragged into the middle of them. Hey, that'd be a good place if we can get signal. Maybe we could go live from down by Mountain Creek.
Yeah.
That's a place I haven't taken you yet. And that place that's woolly. I mean, that is some deep woods, hillbillies, and banjo music. And we ain't going unarmed. Ain't happening.
Do we
That
ever
place
go anywhere unarmed?
in Moon Valley.
Do we ever go anywhere unarmed?
Well, that's very true. No, we do not.
I mean, just saying. I mean, we had enough firepower in the back of Doc's SUV that night to take on a small army.
Well, I think if we're going to go down to Mountain Creek, I'm going to be taking the World War II contenders collection. Yeah, the 1911 sidearm and its long gun cousin, the M1 Garand. Because if that don't put something down, that's about the biggest thing I got.
I got to get some
12 gauge.
I still got to get some non-subsonic 300 blackout so I can carry my 300 blackout.
Harlan Neal says, DA Mike never gets to fight those things, just keeps getting hospital visits. Yeah, that poor guy, he's in the hospital all the time. JC Calloway says, why do you think they mess with people like they do? Some of it I think is territorial. I think it's just straight up, you're in our territory, get the hell out. Some of it could very well just be what he was describing as language and also what he thought was giggling. Maybe it was an adolescent messing with him. It could have just been a situation it was just picking on him because it could. But then he was being paced out by more than one creature. So I really think he was in an area they didn't want him in. Maybe he interrupted a hunt. Maybe they just wanted his food. But I think in a lot of cases they're just curious. But I think very good chunk of it, if not the bulk of it, is probably to do with territory. They don't want you in their territory, especially in an area they're hunting. Good night, Estelle. Just Ryan says, you guys ever checked out the Starlink Mini? I have. But right at the moment, I'm in one of those situations where I'd have to sizzle bubble gum at the moment. So I'm not going to be making any major purchases. I busted my phone a month ago. Well, not even a month ago, and had to shill out for a new phone. And that sucked. But I got the phone, got the phone working. In retrospect, if I'd had the money on hand, I think I would have just bought one of those Tesla Starlink phones. But I'm not sure that's available to my carrier yet. So in a year or two, when those Starlink capable cell phones are available with AT&T, I'm definitely going to be looking at getting one of those. Mary Cole, yeah, it was crazy that it was mimicking him. And there's a lot of encounter stories where they've mimicked noises. Well, hell, when we were out in Moon Valley, it mimicked the owl call, and Doc made an owl call that's not from our area. I believe it was a Pacific Northwest owl call that he made. I don't remember. Doc would have to tell you which owl call it was, but it wasn't an owl that's native to Missouri.
That's
Fox
the same
says,
thing.
ship came across my phone, looked it up. A Mexican Navy ship hit the Brooklyn Bridge, 20 or so injured on the ship. Why was there a Mexican Navy ship in that harbor in the first place?
I didn't know there was a Mexican Navy.
I didn't either. Good night, Irene. Get some rest. We'll see you next time. But, you know, what it all boils down to is whether you're in Sasquatch area or if you're just going to the store to get a loaf of bread, we live in a dangerous world. And you can mitigate. You can't always prepare for every scenario. You just can't. But you can mitigate those circumstances to where you're prepared for a lot. Having a good med kit is a great start, and I highly recommend the Dark Angel medical kits, not just because Doc's family to me, but because those are damn good kits, and I trusted my ass to them. Carried one on my belt, carried one on my plate carrier, got one on my pack, got one on my car. Always a good idea to have one on hand. And like they were saying, one is none and two. One is none and two is one. So if you've got going to carry something, carry backups. If you carry one flashlight, you're screwed because when that goes dead, you have no light. Most people have a flashlight on their phone, but I always keep a couple others at least in the car. Vicky Dennison says cartel ship. Oh, great. But carry what you're comfortable with. And if you're going to carry a firearm of any type, don't just go to the range once every 6 months to a year. Just so you know you're proficient with it, practice with it. And you can practice in your living room without ammunition. You can practice dry firing. You can practice aiming. Make sure you're good at field stripping and keeping the gun clean. Make sure, having a firearm, it's just important to know how to maintain it as to be safe with it. Because if you don't maintain it, it will fail you, and generally at the worst possible time. Keep a good knife on you. And I recommend Scallywag because they've got a knife for about every occasion. They are a little pricey. You can sizzle them. Damn good knives. And if you do want to get a Dark Angel kit, don't forget to use discount code DA Roberts. No, it's that one is Cryptid20. Cryptid20 for 20% off. And if you want Scallywag, use DA Roberts 10. And that'll get you 10% even off the blemish blades. And don't forget, if you're in the market to get a firearm, check out Sigwo Arms. Sigwo, you're going to start seeing them showing up in the books. It's a local company from here in Springfield. They handle custom builds as well as just about anything. They've got suppressors. They've got custom build ARs. They have got some amazing stuff.
They've already showed up in one book.
They have, and they're going to be showing up in a lot more.
One book's in print. They've already showed up in.
Heck yeah, that's right. They was in your second one.
Mm-hmm.
So Robbie beat me to the punch. He's already started talking about it. But check out Sigwo, and if you want to get an AR with the dark, not dark. If you want to get an AR with the Wild Hunt logo, those are your guys. They've got those logos in stock, and you can custom order anything you like, and they can put Codename Wild Hunt on it. And if you want one with Dark Angel Medical, they can do that too. I'll get them the graphic if they need it. But check out SigwoArms.com and let them know we sent you, and they will treat you right. Good group of guys over there. In fact, I was just over there yesterday. Noah and I were over there. He was picking up something that he had in layaway for a hot minute. He's got himself a new toy. He got himself a lever action 3030, beautiful little rifle. Looks almost like the one that I got from Steve Payton. Different sights, and this one's got a scope on it. I like mine better. Robbie, thanks for putting that on. SigwoArms.com. And at the moment, they don't have a discount code set up for us, but we're in the works talking about that. Hopefully, we'll have that available for y'all soon. But look for them. there'll be a full page ad for them in the back of my books and maybe in Robbie's.
Yep.
Uh,
Well, it's not. I don't have the full page ad yet, but
I don't have it yet either. They're still putting it together for me, but as soon as I get it, I'll get it to you. And you'll find an ad for Dark Angel and for Scallywag Tactical as well in the back of my books. But definitely check those folks out. And these are all veteran-owned companies. Sigma Arms is locally owned, veteran-owned. Dark Angel Medical is veteran-owned. Scallywag Tactical, veteran-owned. Brock Blades, Ken Brock, he's a veteran of law enforcement, career. There's a pattern here, and it's we're happy and more than proud to support our first responders and our veterans in their endeavors. And check them all out. Let them know we sent you. Let them know that you're looking at them and that who sent you. So that'll be an awesome boost for all of them because they could all use it. Hell, right now I think we all could. Make sure you're checking out Robbie's newest book. It is called Silver Star.
Silver Star's first book.
Silver Star. That's right. Silver Star's the first book. This one called the
Creature of Skateboard Swamp.
Creature of Skateboard Swamp. I was going to call it the Lizard Man of Skateboard Swamp, and I knew that wasn't right. But it's an awesome book. Fast paced, high action. You're going to like it. If you like my books, you're going to like Robbie's. He's got 2 books currently in print with a 3rd one fixing to drop soon. So what's that one called, Robbie?
That one is going to be Shadow Walkers, the Terror of the Wampus Cat.
Nice. And that one's shaping up to be a good one too. Jeremy Lee says, looking at a lever gun, add another digit to what you're thinking to pay. I want to get a big thumper of a lever gun, either 4570, and there's another company that makes a 50 AE lever gun. I'd like to have one of those. A 500 Magnum lever gun. I'd like to have one of those. But folks, check all those our affiliates out. Check out Robbie's books. Check out all my stuff over at DARoberts.net, and watch for the new one, Lakeview Man, Dead of Winter, coming soon. As soon as I can get the cover arrangements made and everything. Folks, appreciate you guys hanging out with us. Hope we've been able to share some knowledge that'll be helpful for y'all. And this is something we're probably going to continue to do from time to time, talk about survival situations and different things that you will need. And it's just our way of sharing information that's good for all of us. And as rough as these times are lately, it's good to know some of the old ways because you never know when they're going to save your butt. So again, thank you guys for hanging out with us tonight. We really appreciate it. Hope you guys will remember the 22 a Day Foundation. We lose 22 veterans a day to suicide, and that is 22 too many. But please check on your friends and family that are veterans, are still active duty, have served in any capacity, first responders, no matter what capacity they served. Check on your friends and family because sometimes they've seen things that they can't unsee. I know I've still got things that I struggle with from time to time. For the most part, I'm good, but I once in a while I'll have one of those days where I'll send Robbie or Doc or Steve or somebody a text like, "Hey, you awake?" I didn't necessarily want to talk about it. Sometimes I just need to know someone's there, and if you don't have anybody like that, reach out to me, reach out to Robbie, reach out to Doc, reach out to Steve. I'd rather hear your story than read your obituary. There are people out there that care about you. So let your friends and family know that we're veterans or first responders in any capacity. Let them know you care, because you never know. Like I said, when that "Hey, are you okay?" text is the only thing that keeps them off the edge that day. And that's one thing we all need to remember is to not let the hard days win, because at least 22 times a day they are winning. And let's get 22 down to 0 where it needs to be. And that's my soapbox for the night. Everybody knows it's something it's very near and dear to my heart, and I've buried way too many friends and family underneath that folded flag. And again, I hope the next time I see one of those folded flags that it's my own. And I'm tired of burying friends. Having said that, let's close this rascal out with a toast. And especially, folks, remember we got Memorial Day coming up, and Memorial Day is rough on a lot of guys, especially combat veterans, people that have lost people in combat. because Memorial Day is for those we lost. It's great to thank people for their service on Memorial Day, but Memorial Day is not for us. Memorial Day is for the ones we lost. Veterans Day is for us. Memorial Day is for the ones that made the ultimate sacrifice. And it's not just barbecues and long weekends, as we owe a debt to everybody that gave their life to keep us free and to keep us safe. So especially with Memorial Day coming up, reach out to your friends and family. Let them know you care about them. Now we're going to close this rascal out with a toast. And Robbie, you want to do the toast tonight?
Sure.
Let me remove my hat and get that toast up there and grab myself a drink. And Robbie, when you're ready.
And since it fell into my lot that I should rise and you should not, I'll gently rise and softly call. Good night and joy be to you all. Night, everybody. Slanja.
Good night, everyone. Slanja.
Thank you for joining us. Catch us again Wednesdays and Saturdays on DAExMachiNation. A special thanks to all our channel members and Patreon supporters. Please make sure to like, share, and subscribe.